sounds like an interesting discovery.
It is. I have never run into this in the hundreds of properties I've looked at. It's going to grow dramatically, I think, in 2 or 3 new zones, as well as expanding the known zones that we have right now.
How open to the idea of a mine is the state of Oregon?
It is very supportive of mining, actually positive, even right up to the governor. This exploration, even with our now 255 holes, is just beginning.
My subscribers are concerned with the 70 million warrants outstanding.
We don't see it as a negative. We've placed these shares extremely well and a lot in very solid hands. So I think that'll work out for everybody going forward.
It's going to be a really exciting year for drilling.
Welcome back. My next guests, plural, for the first time ever, are Rob Clark and Perttu, who are president and CEO, respectively, of Provenance Gold Corp, trading on the CSE under the symbol PAU. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on, James. Appreciate it.
Sure. Rauno, I'm going to start with you because I saw the press release this week, and it's very encouraging. Obviously, you guys are still ending in mineralization, and that bodes well for the outcome of the drill program. Can you give me sort of an overview technically of what is happening on the ground?
Right now, we are completing in the middle of our 3rd core hole, and that core hole is designed to find out why our hole 4 of last year in our first drilling program, where we thought we were just going to be in Nevada grade mineralization, bottomed in 32 meters of 4 grams and bottomed in that. So anyway, this hole is designed to find out what the geology of that area was by coring. That worked really well on understanding the system with our first core hole, which went through the high-grade holes that we hit last year. Last year, we drilled holes 4, 7, and 11 that were spectacular. Holes 7 and 11 hit strong mineralization. Hole 7 hit 3.1 grams over 100 meters plus. Hole 11 hit 3.28 grams over 100 meters plus. And we wanted to understand why. We did the core, and it was incredibly encouraging. We also chased the mineralization well beyond that 100 meters range of those first drill holes. Our current program is a step out from that to find out why our hole 4, which was over 100 or 200 meters actually away from those holes and angled away from those holes, hit strong mineralization at the bottom. What we found was at the bottom, we are now into an area that on the surface shows mineralization we didn't know about last year until that range fire exposed the surface. That range fire exposed a broad zone of alteration that goes right through the projection of 4 and well beyond. So our current core program is to find out what the thickness of that zone is, what the geology of that zone is, and to use the combination of those first 3 core holes this year to plan a much more aggressive RC program starting in the spring, where we can build on now we understand a lot more about the geology. We understand a lot more with mapping that was done very recently over the new burnt area with great new exposures to interpret the expansion of this property. It's going to grow dramatically, I think, in 2 or 3 new zones, as well as expanding the known zones that we have right now.
And so is this a stratigraphically controlled system? What's the sort of general geological setting?
You're asking one of the toughest questions because we actually, I've looked at hundreds of projects around the world, and this is a new one. The mineralization is actually in a diorite, but it's not a normal, I don't know if the listeners know what a diorite is. It's sort of a granitic type body. But it's not the kind of diorite you would picture. This diorite is associated with a subduction zone. The old you'll see in the news the plate tectonics, collisions of continents and volcanoes and all the rest of that. Anyway, the subduction zone diorites are quite different. They come in sheets along the underthrust zone, and I think that's what we're dealing with here. Anyway, the geology is perplexing because you don't normally see scattered gold in diorite. we have a whole lot more ideas of what's going on now, and it's all on the positive. We thought originally it was going to be breccia zones, diorites, dioritic associated diatremes. And instead, what we're finding out is it's scattered in the diorite. For instance, in a new zone that we discovered below last year's drilling, we have a photograph of gold scattered out just almost uniformly across that core in a portion. And we finally figured out it's depositing next to iron-rich minerals in the diorite. And it's also depositing next to pyrites. This pyrite is not associated with the gold mineralization. It's an earlier event. And what happened is the chemistry of the groundwater changes near those iron-rich minerals and drops the gold out. So we have gold in a very unusual situation. It's not a porphyry as was originally thought. Even I thought it was. It's not in a diorite breccia pipe of any kind or a diatreme of any kind. It's scattered because of the chemistry within the diorite itself, and that, I think, opens it up dramatically. What is controlling the plumbing system are a series of northeast and northwest intersecting faults, the northeast ones being the dominant ones. And those fault zones aren't just a fault zone. They're wide zones. For instance, hole 7 was an angle hole, and it started and stopped within that high-grade zone. So they have some real width to them. They have major length to them. I think this exploration, even with our now 255 holes, is just beginning.
Okay, so then how would you describe grade continuity across the core that you've drilled in this press release?
Well, one of the things that we saw or were worried about right from the beginning was is this mineralization that was picked up by rotary drilling in the old days, was it just little bits of mineralization here and there and dead rock? Well, no, it's pervasive. The stuff that isn't penetrated by strong fluids runs half a gram type material right across it, which is by the normal open pit today. So the whole package right now is structurally controlled, but not really structurally controlled because it's fluid flow controlled within the diorite. This is, I'm sounding sort of jumbly about it, but the reason is that it's an unusual situation. I have never run into this in the hundreds of properties I've looked at where the diorite itself is the host rock because of its chemistry.
Sounds like an interesting discovery.
It is.
Now, so you've got 3 holes underway. And is that going to be it sort of for the 2024 season?
Right now, what I think we're going to do is run this current third hole down to 300 meters or so. It's going to depend on what we see in the rock, of course. But at that point, we'll have, with our 3 holes, gotten pretty close to that 1,000 meters of coring. What we need to do next is get the assays back. We now understand the geology a whole lot better than we did last fall going into this. We can design, we're putting all that data into a leapfrog model. The leapfrog model is pre-existing, but we keep modifying it. We're going to put that into a major program starting late March, early April of RC drilling, not only as infill and testing out new areas, but we're going to do some step-out drilling on our theories on that. It's going to be a really exciting year for drilling, and then we'll bring in the core as we need it for understanding local geology. Okay,
Rob, let's turn to you for a moment. So you're fully funded for this year. Are you going to have to go back to the market next year?
Yeah, as you say, we're fully funded for this program and going into the new year. What we'd like to do, pending decent assays, would be to do a strategic raise, hopefully at a higher level, less dilution, to set up, in the early parts of the new year, knowing where we're at for a pretty substantial program heading into the spring. And that sort of brings into play the option, the property payments that we have, and everything else that we have to be mindful of, and make sure that we've got the cash position on hand to do something that's extremely substantial for the company and expanding it for the next 6 months.
Sure. I've had some feedback from some of my subscribers who are concerned with the 70 million warrants outstanding. How do you plan to sort of remedy that overhang in the stock before you raise more money?
We've been very fortunate. We're one of the few that were able to drill and continue operations and exploration through the downtime in the juniors and the exploration market over the last several years. So, with that, obviously, you're giving a warrant away with it. That said, we've got a number of high net individuals that are committed to the long-term success of the project, that continue to take part in other fundings and hold their shares for the future of this project and the long-term nature of what we're trying to prove here, and eventually, hopefully, get it into an actual mine. So, we're not scared of the overhang. Obviously, the warrants help. They finance the company. So it's a good thing overall. We've got a lot of strategic partners coming to the table, and a lot of other things that we're working into the market, along with a lot of exposure that should help absorb any overhang. We can also, we've talked collectively about calling some of the warrants and having some of the larger holders execute these warrants for extra cash for the company. So we don't see it as a negative. I know some shareholders would see it as a big overhang. We've placed these shares. We've tried to place them extremely well and a lot in very solid hands. So I think that'll work out for everybody going forward.
Sure. Okay, another area of concern for investors might be the state of Oregon. How open to the idea of a mine is the state of Oregon?
Actually, Oregon is a divided state. The western half, you don't want to do anything in the way of opening up a mine. Eastern Oregon has no people. It has sagebrush. Sagebrush on our property burned off last year, so it has dirt. And it's very pro-mining. The area we're in has no population. It's ranch country, major ranch country. And it is very supportive of mining. The state itself has become supportive of mining in Eastern Oregon. They want to put it in this box in Eastern Oregon, not in Western Oregon, but in Eastern Oregon, it's actually positive, even right up to the governor of the state right now, because they recognize that that area needs a stimulus to its income. Mining in Nevada across the state line and Idaho across the state line has provided high-paying jobs and a lot of work. They want the same for that area, and the local people are demanding it. So I think it's very strongly supported now in that part of the state.
Sure. Okay, and how long till we see a SK 1300 43101 compliant resource?
That's one that I don't like to do early right now for the simple reason that, the pre-43-101 resource open-ended was 2 million ounces. I think it's going to continue to grow and improve in grade for a long time. And as soon as you come up with a number, call it X number of millions of ounces, that fixes in people's minds. This thing is going to grow, I think, for the next several years with increased drilling and spreading out of that mineral envelope. So I don't think our goal is going to be to come up with an established number. We're far more interested right now in expanding the total gold system, improving its grade, and infilling data, and we can leave the final resource for a later date. And I think the investors will recognize that the reason we don't have a number now is because it's not important when the system continues to grow and improve.
You bet. That's a great answer. Very exciting story. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time today. We'll come back to you in due course. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, James. Anytime. Appreciate it.